So earlier in the show, we were Stan and I were talking about I don't know.
Well, we're talking about this on Sunday, by the way.
Exactly, but specifically, we were talking about Dwayne Haskins,
yes.
And the fact that all these major, he is a finalist for the Heisman, but there's all kinds of other major awards that he's not even a finalist for. AP College Football Player of the Year, Kyler Murray won it with Tua Tagovailoa a close second, and then Dwayne way down. And we're just talking about the lack of
respect,
acknowledgement, respect, whatever for him. And then you, Stan, started talking about that it goes beyond that. It goes to the Big Ten. And then you brought up Marcus Ray.
Right.
And Marcus has a theory as to
very credible theory, by the way,
where this all started. And Marcus Ray, former Michigan safety, BTN analyst, joins us right now because he wanted to chime in. Marcus, thanks for calling. So where does the lack of respect, Big Ten wide
and
Pac-12, where does it start?
Well, briefly, I think you just have to know the history of college football. And so if you really go back and Google the coalition, the Bowl Coalition that started in 92, there were a group of conferences, non-Big Ten, non-Pac-12 conferences, let's just put it that way, who made an agreement to have their conference champions play for the national championship. But that really all started back in 1968, because when the AP started dropping their poll in 1936, it was biased, and the Rose Bowl was the only bowl game. And then once they formed the Sugar Bowl, the Orange Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, the Sun Bowl, but then the coaches created their own poll around 1950, and that's when you start to see a shift. And then right around 1968, when the AP named Ohio State unanimous champion, that same coaches coalition, if you will, stuck together and pretty much vowed to exclude the Pac-12 and the Big Ten champion for the next 30 years. Stanley's team should have been a split champion, but they didn't play in the Alliance Bowl. So what I was trying to get people to understand is there's been an exclusion of the Big Ten and Pac-12 going on for 50 years if you understand the history of college football politics. I mean, the college football playoff.
So what would you, Marcus, if you were the grand poobah of the Big Ten and you feel, 3 straight years the Big Ten champion hasn't been in the college football playoffs, 2 straight years there's been no Big Ten team in the college football playoff. Yeah. What would you do? What would you do to try to prop up your league?
Before you answer that, connect the dots to the current system.
All right. So if you look at the current system, let's just start and count backwards. Let's start right now. You got the SEC, the Big 12, and the ACC, and an independent Notre Dame in the championship. That's the Coalition Bowl Series. Those are their teams. They're non-Big Ten, non-Pac teams. Very relevant today. You saw it last year when you had 2 SEC teams. That's why you're getting the Big Ten excluded. It has nothing to do with Georgia being the 4th best team. It's the fact that the coalition still exists. And that's why as of 1998, if you go back 20 years, the SEC started dominating. And then that's when they got an edge in recruiting because you knew that those schools were going to play for the national championship. So once the coalition was able to join with the Big Ten and then get the Rose Bowl in that rotation, see, the Rose Bowl never wanted to give up the Pac or the Big Ten at ABC contract.
No, they didn't, no.
So the BCS said, hey, well, come on, let's include the Rose Bowl in this Alliance Bowl championship. What you call the New Year's Six today used to be called the Bowl Alliance Bowls. Those were it was 5 conference champions, non-Big Ten, non-Pac-10, and 5 at large. And so, but Penn State in 94, West Virginia in 93, when they went undefeated, they messed up the coalition, so they came up with the Alliance. So the Alliance said, well, the Big Ten champion still goes to the the Rose Bowl, but we're going to, once the Big 12, the Big 8 are dissolved, and the SWAC dissolved, then fell off, they had to reshuffle it, and then they came up with the Bowl Alliance. That's how Ohio State ended up playing in the Sugar Bowl, Penn State playing in it, I think it was the Orange Bowl or something. So they tried to include the Big Ten in those Alliance Bowls when previously they were excluded.
Okay, Marcus Ray, Big Ten Network analyst. What would you do if you're Jim Delaney, Grand Poobah of the Big Ten, to try to change this if you indeed feel like the Big Ten is getting slighted?
Two things I would do. Number one, I would rearrange how the Big Ten determines its champion, because I think we all know the Big Ten championship was played 2 weeks ago in Columbus.
Yeah.
Okay? So, number one, you got to find a way to restructure this Ohio State-Michigan game, put it earlier in the year so that they don't play back-to-back if those are back-to-back weeks, or if those are your two teams that play in the Big Ten championship. So you have to add some type of way to get some excitement and some respect for the Big Ten. Number one. Two, I would almost boycott the college football playoff. That's how, like when BYU's coach, I think his name is Lavelle Edwards.
Yep.
He almost took this thing to Congress because the coalition was excluding mid-majors and naming their own champion, and the AP used to be in cahoots with them. But once the AP said, no, we're going to name our own champion aside from y'all, that's what Delaney has to do, is bring back some of that flavor, boycott it, restructure the Big Ten, reassemble these teams. The East and West is very lopsided, so you either got to mix them back up or you got to move some games around so that the Big Ten can at least have a team play like that. That Big Ten championship game is a semifinal game to the Final Four.
What would your Final Four have been? Your college football playoff Final Four, Marcus? Would Ohio State have made it? Did the committee get it right? Oklahoma over Ohio State? Does it bother you that Georgia's fifth? When you looked at the final rankings, what did you think?
All of the above. Number one, Notre Dame needs to play a 13th game. My top four would have been Bama, Clemson, Oklahoma, and Ohio State. But since the coalition still exists, they got their independent school in, kept the Big Ten out. I have a problem with Georgia being number 5. They got 2 losses. They lost by 20-plus points to an LSU team with 3 losses. Just because you play Alabama tight does not mean you're a top 4 team. So you have to look at everything. But I think the committee, who is called the coalition, they force college football fans to become prisoners of the moment. Oh, look at Georgia. They're so great. No, they're not. They just played them great. They just played Bama great. But Georgia lost 2 games, and there's no way a 2-loss team should be in front of a 1-loss conference champion. And that's just where I stand. Oklahoma's cool, but those Buckeyes, in my opinion, they got shafted, and they want to continue to get shafted until somebody, like a group of people, has to say, now, wait a minute now. Let's break this coalition up. That's why the committee doesn't have any criteria for us to hold them accountable. Every conference champion has criteria. You have to win your division. There's a tiebreaker. There's head-to-head. There's point totals. But when it comes to hand-picking this playoff, there's no criteria on who's the best team.
Okay, Marcus, before I let you go, I have to ask. The word of Urban Meyer, as a Michigan guy, the word of Urban Meyer retiring, how did you react to that?
It saddened me. I got a lot of respect for Urban. I want my sons to play for Urban Meyer. And also, the king of the Big Ten is gone. So if a team like Michigan happen to win next year, then it just really takes some of the sting off because they had to wait until the bully moved off the block. I think Urban Meyer is amazing. I've always liked him. I ain't saying he's a squeaky clean guy and all that. That's not my position. But that bothered me. I wish him well. And if he resurfaces somewhere else, best believe he's a coach that I would want my children to play for. And if he stayed at Ohio State, my boys would be at Ohio State.
Hey, Marcus, I got to tell you, boy, Columbus starting to like you a little more now. Your stock is raising around here.
It took yeah. Well, that's that was well said. I mean, it was, and that's Marcus. That's a good point. In that, I mean, that's obviously you wanted Michigan to win that game, and it would be more meaningful if you beat an Urban Meyer coached Ohio State team.
Yeah, because I mean, we don't know who Ryan Day is yet as a full-time Ohio State coach. So let's just say he happens to be Luke Fickell in year 1, like the last time Michigan won. We don't really want to celebrate that. You want to beat Ohio State when they're at their peak. When they're on top. So I think Jim Harbaugh has a 4-year head start on Ryan Day in this series, but that doesn't mean he's going to beat Ryan Day. It just means that Urban Meyer's gone, so now it just takes some of the, I think you just need to put an asterisk by it. But now the Big Ten is more wide open. You got some other schools, and as soon as Scott Frost figures it out, he'll be playing in Indianapolis every year, and then Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, and Michigan State will have to figure it out.
So real quick, now that Urban Meyer's gone, who's the favorite in the East?
Ohio State. I just think to beat a man, you have to beat the man. They're not going to drop off like people think. Ohio State is a machine, man. It's a machine that I respect. I didn't like Ohio State growing up, but I respect them now. I respect what they've done. I even like Jim Tressel. So I mean, so at the end of the day, it's their title to lose, and they have such a head start on the rest of the conference. It's going to take years to catch up with them, and just expect them to have that one slip up every year. And that's what the coalition is using against Ohio State, is that one slip up. Oh, you slipped up. You can't come to our party. So, but hey, I hope the Buckeyes win the Rose Bowl, and I hope Haskins win the Heisman, man. And that's just the truth.
Appreciate it, Marcus. And I will start calling the committee the coalition
there
now
it is.
after listening to you. That's right. Appreciate
Hey,
it.
we gotta educate these people, because a lot of people are arguing, but they don't know the politics and the history of it.
I like it.
Appreciate it, fellas.